Are you struggling to get your website noticed in the sea of competition? In this video, I'm going to share with you my top 3 tips to rank better in Google, get more traffic, more leads, inquiries, and sales. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Chris Bindley, and I've been in the SEO industry for the last 17 years now, and I'm no stranger to some of the mistakes and pitfalls that can be made in basically trying to rank better in Google. I can't say that I've seen it all, but I've certainly seen my fair share of mistakes, and to be honest, I've actually made quite a few of them. So the purpose of this video really is to compile a list of the key things that I know work based on my previous experience. So let's get right into it. Right, step number 1, you need to think like your audience. Now, Google's pretty much a big question and answer machine, and that's pretty much what it does. You ask it a question, it gives you the most relevant search result in response. So you have to think like your audience, and you have to think about the challenges that they have and the questions that they have. And then what you need to do is you need to take your website and you need to ensure that the content is actually written in such a way that it answers that. And in fact, we'll talk about technical and so forth a little bit further along in this video, but there's really nothing worse than having a perfectly technically balanced website, but it doesn't have the right content or content written in such a way that the user would be able to digest it and therefore find it interesting. So you really need to think about the sorts of questions that they would ask and then the answers that you would give. So gone are the days where you want people typing in service location. I mean, yes, that certainly still happens, but if you have a how-to specific question that's asked that your content talks to, that's absolutely more valuable. So we'll break down in another video at a website level in detail, I guess hierarchically, but for this video, I would just really want you to think about the content on your website, be it home, about us, services, contact, blog, whatever the case is. I just want you to think about that in terms of, does the content on this website match the answers that the client would be looking for if they find it? Because you can get a website ranked, but if it doesn't answer those questions, then you're not going to have the client on the website very long, and you're not therefore going to have traffic that's going to be of relevance. Now, the next step is the technical stuff, making sure that your content is written in such a way that the search engines actually can read that content. And the best way to describe this is, if you've ever accidentally right-clicked on a website page and then you see all the source code and you think to yourself, what the hell is this? That's what Google sees. And the thing is, they don't see pictures, they don't see video. All they see in the pictures and the video is the meta tags that are on them. So it's reasonable to think that you really need to be thinking about the meta tags for the search engine. So like we said a little earlier, you can have a great piece of content, but if it's not organized in such a way that Google can read it and therefore decide on what it is about in a couple of seconds, then you're not going to be as positioned as well when it comes to search. So just to take a step back, you've written the content, you now want to make sure that the search engines are going to find the overall theme of that content, and that's where you start to talk about title tags, description tags, heading tags, alt tags. Now there's more, but they're probably the core ones. An interesting anecdote, the title tag and the description tag are usually what shows up in Google. So if you do a Google search and you find the blue heading, that's normally the title tag of the page the last time that Google actually looked at that website. And without going down another rabbit hole, that's another important point. That is that the website and how it looks in Google is only as relevant as the last time that Google actually looked at that website. So Sometimes I've actually had clients say, well, you said you'd change that title tag. And the thing is that we had, it just hadn't been re-indexed by Google yet. So important note, Google will update your website more and more as it gets to know you better and better. But in some instances, that could be a couple of weeks, right down to news websites, which are updating every other second. So first things first is getting those title tags and the description tags right. And the other thing as well is that that's from a page perspective. So a lot of people, when they think about a website, they think about the website as one singular thing. But actually, a website is a bunch of pages. And so, again, if we just go back to the example of home, about, contact, services, blog, there's 5 different pages that would potentially have a theme. So, the way that I describe how you write hierarchically for a website is to think of it like a book. So, a book has a title. Now, I guess the difference here is that each page is kind of like a book, but within that title, so the main title of that page, there is content below that. So the first thing, if you look at a page, and most builders are similar, so whether it be Squarespace, Wix, Shopify, or WordPress, Drupal, any of the other guys, usually is an area where you can edit the title tag and the description tag. Now, I should caution you here, if you already have traffic, you don't want to go messing around with your title tags and your description tags first, because there is potentially a negative. I would suggest that I'll actually produce another video to talk to you about how you can do this without affecting a website's traffic negatively. So what I'll say in this video is, if you don't have any traffic, so there's nothing really to be lost, and you're starting out, or your website doesn't have any traffic and you've been around for a while, you're able to edit the title tag and the description tag without any negative. We'll talk in a moment about the pieces of software you can use to track how much traffic you have, but suffice it to say that we can negatively affect rankings. But if you don't have any rankings and no traffic, then this is for you. So like I said, we've got a page, home, about, services. There will be a theme on that page. So if you're talking about widgets, then there would be uses for widgets, types of widgets, colors of widgets. And as you're telling a story about a particular service, have a think about how that service or the product relates back to potentially the question that somebody asked. So, for instance, in this example, I want to have a YouTube episode ranking in Google for how to ABC. And I want the content that I'm serving up now, although that's in video format, I'll put a transcribed description below that. I want that to be able to serve the answer to the question that the person asks. Because if they arrive on your website and they're not getting the answer to the question, then they'll either continue to look around your website, which is not always good, or they'll go back out into Google and go into position 2, 3, 4, or 5 until they find what they're after. So it's important to ensure that the content is relevant to the potential search, but also the search intent. So if a person was searching for, so I'm based on the Gold Coast in Australia, the person was searching for a mortgage broker and they typed in mortgage broker Gold Coast, they've probably started their search. I think it's fair to say if they found everything that they're after on that first page, they might make an inquiry. But what they will probably do is then go through the process of different types of mortgage brokers, broker pricing. It might be for a specific type of mortgage broking. So I've spoken to some people today that specialise in complex mortgage broking for self-employed people. So you're now starting to get more of that search intent when you're having a person arrive on your website, and you want to make sure that that content speaks to that. So that doesn't mean that you need diatribe, word vomit, thousands of words for every page. What it means is carefully crafting the content to match what the client's actually looking for. So what I'd suggest from a content perspective is grab a pen and paper, sit down and actually just mind map this out. This is the home page. This is the about. This is the products and services. This is the contact. This is the blog. There might be more to it than that because it might be an e-commerce website. But effectively, then what you can do is think about the theme on that page. What do you want to talk about? What's the problem? And then does your content talk to that solution? There could be multiple multiple problems. Does it talk to those solutions? If you write your content like that, and then once you've done it, take a step back and look at the title, look at the description, look at the main heading tag. If there's a lot of content, it could be a heading 1, could be a subheading of heading 2. And if there's a lot of pictures, then it's appropriate to use an alt tag. So if you have an image that is a picture of a dog, it doesn't necessarily mean that Google's going to see a picture of a dog. But if you show in the alt tag that this is a picture of a dog and that potentially that alt tag ties back to the answer of what the client was looking for, you're really now starting to get into the juices of what content looks like on a website. So I guess if we just take a few steps back, the first thing that we looked at is what is the client looking for and what sorts of questions would they ask? Then the second thing we looked at is the content, how it's broken up into, well, we looked at that next, but the content and how it talks to the answer to the questions that they give. The next thing we talked about really was the structure so that you can get it so that not all of your words are on the home page. So people navigate around and they see stuff on other pages, so the structure. The next thing I want to talk to you about is the tracking, because it's important to track the success of the campaign. So a couple of cool tools to use. They're free tools. They're Google tools, not my tools. The first one is Google Analytics. The second one is Google Search Console. And if you're a local product or service, so you've got a geographical location, then Google My Business. So the first one is Google Analytics. Now what Google Analytics does is it'll allow you to track all of the information about the searcher coming to your site. And there's a whole bunch of reasons why I love Google Analytics, but probably one of the bigger reasons is because it shows where they came from. Did they come from Google? Did they come from a person typing in www dot your website address? Did they come in from socials? The next thing that I love is it'll actually say how long they're on the website, how many pages they navigated, which page they bounced away from. So you can really get a sense for what people are doing. And if you then took a step back and looked at it over a whole month, you can start to see, well, the About Us has a really, really high bounce rate. People seem to get to the About Us and then they leave. Now that is an interesting thing by itself. You'd probably like to think the contact should be the highest bounce rate. I mean, spoiler, the homepage probably will be, just the nature of the beast. If you look at the pages internally, you start to see some anomalies. With bounce rate, the higher the number, the worse. So if you have a 90+% bounce rate on a page, it's probably not a good thing. Typically across the whole of the website, 55 to 60% is pretty good in terms of bounce rate. You can look at pages where people are spending longer on. So I guess you get my point that it's good that you're able to analyze, hence the reason why it's called Google Analytics. The next tool is Google Search Console, and that will enable you to look at some of the technical limitations and issues. It will serve up page errors. It will show you if a page was found originally and then isn't found, and then you can actually look at the reasons why. And so it's a really good tool to have from a technical perspective. And then the last tool is Google My Business. Now, if you look at a search results page, there's a whole bunch of different stuff happening in there that you might not be aware of. So if you search for Mortgage Broker Gold Coast, you will see the Google Ads results. You will see the Maps results, the organic results, potentially some video results. And it's the maps results that I'm talking about, that if you rank in those, you will get direct click traffic for that. Now, again, probably a video for another day, but with Google Maps, the general rule of thumb is try to use as much of an opportunity to write content in there about your products and services, because Google does index that particular platform. It's one of the few things that's good about Google My Business or Google Maps. But the other thing, I suppose, is that the more reviews you get, the better you rank. Now, that's not the only indicator, but it's a really big one, starting from around 35 to 40 reviews, depending on the industry. So it's important to get reviews from clients. You'll rank better there, so you start getting traffic from there. And when they flow through to your website, they should go through that same experience. So again, like I kind of always say, we'll take a few steps back. Google Analytics, Google Search Console, so Google Analytics for all of the data around search and what they're doing on your page, Google Search Console for the technical, and then finally the Google My Business platform for the local results. So just to kind of summarize, the purpose of this video was for me to show you the top 3 tips for how I know I can get a website ranked better. And I can assure you, I've been doing this for, well, if I include my early days, I've been doing this for probably close to 20 years. And what I've seen across that whole entire time is that if you focus on those steps, that's really never changed. I mean, it might have been more important in some years, less important in others, but actually the thing that really just hasn't changed is if you write a website with multiple pages that answers the questions that a client's searching for, and you do it in such a way where when they read it, it's interesting. We all know there's industries that are more and less interesting. If you have a website that's less interesting, there's cool tools like ChatGPT where you can ask it to spin some content, put some analogies in there, make it fun. I would just say with ChatGPT, it's definitely a godsend, and there's other tools out there, but don't rely on it writing your whole website. Use it for ideas, use it for guff, use it for analogies, but use it sparingly. But like I said, make sure that content is actually interesting, so that when they ask a question in their mind, it talks to the answer to that question, and the content is interesting. Probably the other thing that I really wanted to mention there that I'd forgotten a little bit earlier is you do want to talk under the guise of being an expert, but that doesn't mean that you need to know everything about everything. You really just need to be able to answer their questions. So just like in this video, I wanted to share with you my 3 tips. Tip 1 really is questions and answers. Tip 2, as I said, is optimizing for search. So making sure that the technical components from a Google perspective are covered. And tip 3 really is getting those tools in place so that you can track the effectiveness or not of a campaign. And if you put all 3 of those things together, I can guarantee you're going to be in front of 90+% of, what do they say about statistics? 97.3% of statistics are made up on the fly. Truthfully, I have seen very rarely is it a case where clients are able to do all of that and then they don't rank too well. Now, in a future video and a future course of mine, I'm going to take you on a mastermind where I'm going to break down that in a whole bunch more detail, and I'm going to talk to you about backlinks. And it seems to be the biggest misunderstood, I guess, component of how the search engines work. But I really am going to take you on a deep dive there. I'm actually even going to show you how you can set up your own SEO expert and get them doing it for you, because you can do this stuff in Australia and in the first world countries, shall you call them that, but there's definitely experts out there that can do this as long as they've got the right direction and the right strategy. So that's it for me. I really hope that you've enjoyed this video. I really love if you have felt value and you've gotten this far into the video, if you could give us a like and subscribe to this channel and hit the notifications. And in our next video, we're going to bring to you more of this and also some information around social media secrets.